Hello, viewers. This is SP here, and this is the sixth installment of the Pokemon Final Remake series. For Gen 6, I gave it the name Z version, which means it would be a combined version of X and Y. And yes, Zygarde would be the main legendary Pokemon for this final remake of Pokemon Gen 6. So for my ideas for a final remake of Gen 6, I would give the Gen 6 starter Pokemon Mega Evolutions of their own. Probably like the ones from ZA, but with Greninja not upside down. Because that's just weird looking for Greninja or Mega Evolution Greninja to be upside down. Or it's actually called Mega Greninja, my bad. So yeah, like with the previous games, you can give your protagonist personality, XP share, and depending on which starter Pokemon the protagonist would choose, Column or Serena will choose a starter Pokemon that is weak to the protagonist's starter Pokemon, while Emma, aka Essentia, or whatever her name's pronounced, her starter Pokemon will be strong against the protagonist's starter Pokemon. Yes, Essentia would be the main rival for the game in this final remake of Gen 6. So yeah, here are the choices of characters for the protagonist to date, depending on which gender your protagonist is. For Callum, aka male trainer, he would date Serena, Viola, Karina, Valeria, Malva, Shauna, Emma slash Essentia, although that idea is optional, or Diantha. For Serena, aka the female trainer, she would date either Callum, Grant, Clement, Trevor, Tierno, or Sebald. And yes, there'll be exclusive scenes and stuff for whichever character you date. And yes, there will be dialogue in this remake, especially especially for the full final remake series, because all the games in my ideas for a Pokemon final remake series will have dialogue in them. Like you can actually hear characters talk and stuff like that. And in this game, or in this version of Gen 6, there will be choices that the protagonist can choose. So let me give you an example. If the male protagonist chooses Malva as his romantic partner, then Malva would start to reflect on her actions. More so if the male protagonist chooses to save Lysandra. Yeah, you can save Lysandra if you choose to or not. So, okay, moving on. Depending on which legendary Pokemon you choose to require, Column or Serena will automatically pick Xerneas or Yveltal. And yes, when Zygarde appears, the protagonist could choose either to catch Zygarde or not, or at least allows Emma to catch Zygarde. And if you allow Emma to catch Zygarde, Emma will give the protagonist the information on Zygarde so that the protagonist could add it to the Pokédex. And yes, XP shares, the main key item and stuff. And there will be regional forms for the Gen 6 Pokemon. And also the evolved forms and pre-evolved forms of the Gen 6 Pokemon will be in this final remake too. Oh yeah, for the climax, the super weapon will transform into a giant flower monster. Kind of like in ZA, but. Xerneas, Yveltal, and Zygarde will team up and fight against the super weapon, making it into a big final, big climactic scene battle. Maybe it would happen after the championships or not. I really haven't thought things through about when it will happen. When the protagonist fights the champion. Maybe a little before it, or maybe in a post game. I haven't really thought things through with this one, but heck. So here are what the characters would wear, and I've already mentioned about what the art style for this final remake of mine would be like. If you haven't watched my previous videos, then I suggest just watch those first before continuing on. Okay, so anyway, here's what Callum, aka the male protagonist, would wear. And here's what Serena, aka the female player, would wear. Here's what Professor Sycamore would wear. Here's what Emma would wear. And this is what Essentia would wear. Oh yeah, and these three friends right here would have their partner Pokemon be the starter Pokemon for Gen from Gen 1. Sorry. So for Shauna, this is what she wears, and her starter Pokemon is a Bulbasaur. This is what Trevor would wear, and his partner Pokemon is a Charmander. This is what Tierno would wear, and this is what I mean, and his partner Pokemon is Squirtle. This is what Alexa would wear. Here's AZ and what he wears. Here's Viola and what she wears. This is what Grant would wear. This is what Karina would wear. This is what Ramos would wear. This is what Clement would wear. This is what Valeria would wear. This is what Olympia would wear. This is what Wolferic would wear, whatever his name is pronounced. This is what Malva would wear. This is what Selbold would wear. This is what Wickstorm would wear. This is what Drasna would wear. This is what Diantha would wear. This is what Lysandra would wear. This is what Xerex, or whatever his name is pronounced, would wear. This is what Elena would wear. This is what Bryony would wear, whatever her name is pronounced. This is what Celosia would wear. This is what Mabel would wear. And this is what the grunts would wear. Yeah, so basically, they're the exact same outfits from the original Gen 6 series. I know I could have just said that from the start, but heck, I thought I would just show you first. Well, maybe I should have mentioned that first, so my bad. I just like to show you guys what the characters, or what I want the characters to wear for the final remake of Gen 6. And if you ever question why would these games be connected if you played the previous games of the final remake of Gen 6, well, I'll explain that for when I go to the final remake of Gen 7. So, what do you guys think of about my ideas for a final remake of Pokemon Gen 6? What ideas would you have for a final remake of Gen 6? Leave a comment down below, and goodbye.